London, 1888. A chill hangs in the air, a constant companion to the thick fog that blankets the city's cobblestone streets. Gaslight flickers, casting long, dancing shadows that seem to writhe with a life of their own. This is the Victorian era, a time of progress and prosperity, yet in the labyrinthine alleyways of Whitechapel, a different story unfolds. Here, poverty and despair cling to the overcrowded slums, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the city's wealthier quarters. The air is heavy with the stench of coal smoke and human misery, a breeding ground for fear and desperation. And within this brooding atmosphere, a nightmare is about to begin. The year 1888 would etch itself into London's memory, a year forever synonymous with terror and the unknown. For it was in this year that a spectre began to stalk the night, a predator who would leave an indelible mark on the city's soul. Jack the Ripper, a name whispered in fear, a name synonymous with brutality and mystery. His victims, women trapped in the unforgiving grip of poverty, their lives brutally cut short in a display of savagery that shocked even the most hardened police officers. The East End, a place where life was cheap and survival a daily struggle, became his hunting ground. His reign of terror would plunge London into a vortex of fear, his name becoming a chilling whisper on the lips of every citizen. The Ripper's crimes, as brutal as they were baffling, would expose the dark underbelly of Victorian society, revealing the vulnerabilities lurking beneath its veneer of respectability. As the fog rolled in each night, so too did the fear. Whispers of the Ripper's deeds spread like wildfire through the crowded tenements and dimly lit pubs of Whitechapel. No one was safe, and every shadow seemed to hold the threat of the unknown assailant. Mothers clutched their daughters close, fear constricting their hearts with every step they took in the darkening streets. The newspapers, hungry for any scrap of information, printed lurid accounts of the murders, each headline stoking the flames of panic. The city held its breath, caught in the grip of a macabre spectacle that seemed to unfold with each passing day. The police, overwhelmed and outmatched, grappled for answers, their investigations hampered by the limitations of the time. Every shadow, every darkened doorway became a potential hiding place for the elusive killer. The Ripper, it seemed, could be anyone and nowhere was safe. Fear became a palpable presence in Whitechapel, a suffocating blanket that descended upon the community. Life in the East End had always been precarious, but now it had taken on a sinister new dimension. The murders, each more brutal than the last, revealed a chilling pattern, a horrifying tableau of violence that suggested a mind consumed by darkness. The victims, often found mutilated, bore wounds that spoke of a terrifying intimacy with human anatomy. Whispers of a surgeon gone mad, a butcher with a thirst for blood, circulated through the terrified populace. Jack the Ripper, the name itself, conjured images of a shadowy figure, a spectre who vanished into the night as quickly as he appeared. He was a phantom, a whisper in the darkness, leaving behind a trail of blood and terror. His motives, shrouded in mystery, only served to amplify the collective fear that had gripped the city. Was he driven by madness, a sadistic urge to inflict pain and terror, or was there a deeper, more chilling purpose behind his gruesome acts? These questions haunted the minds of investigators and citizens alike, fueling countless theories and speculations. The Ripper's reign of terror, though relatively brief, would cast a long shadow over London. Its impact felt long after the murders ceased. The city would forever bear the scars of his crimes, the memory of his victims etched into the very fabric of Whitechapel. The Whitechapel murders became a morbid fascination, a gruesome spectacle that captivated and horrified in equal measure. The mystery of Jack the Ripper, a puzzle that has baffled generations, continues to intrigue and terrify, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most civilized societies. He remains an enigma, a chilling embodiment of the unknown, and his story serves as a stark reminder that some secrets, no matter how diligently pursued, may forever elude our grasp. To understand the fear that gripped Whitechapel in the autumn of 1888, one must first understand the district itself. Whitechapel was a city within a city, a teeming microcosm of humanity where life unfolded at a frantic pace. Cobbled streets, narrow and often choked with refuse, snaked through dilapidated buildings. The air, heavy with the stench of poverty and industry, hung thick and oppressive. Here resided the working class of London, a diverse mix of labourers and immigrants. Life in Whitechapel was a relentless cycle of work and meagre subsistence. Families crammed into overcrowded tenements, battling disease, hunger and despair. The streets offered a stark contrast to the opulence enjoyed by the upper classes. Horse-drawn carts jostled for space, with peddlers hawking their wares. Children, their faces grimy and their clothes threadbare, played amongst the throngs. Whitechapel was a world apart, where Victorian respectability dissipated into the fog. For those who called Whitechapel home, life was a daily struggle for survival. The spectre of poverty loomed large, casting a long shadow over the lives of its inhabitants. Work, often dangerous and poorly paid, was a necessity, and the streets were filled with men, women and even children seeking employment in the factories, shipyards and sweatshops that dominated the district. Yet, even with the relentless toil, many struggled to make ends meet, their meagre earnings barely enough to stave off hunger. In Whitechapel, life was a constant dance with destitution. Solace was found in the warmth of local pubs. Amidst the haze, struggles were momentarily forgotten. Conversations flowed freely, offering brief respite. But danger lurked, even in these havens. Crime was a constant threat in Whitechapel. Prostitution was driven by poverty and desperation. Women walked the streets, a testament to brutal realities. The police struggled to maintain order, often outmatched by criminals in the shadows. Justice was often swift and brutal, dispensed with little regard for complexities. Murders terrorized Whitechapel, a manifestation of darkness, a brutal reflection of poverty and desperation. Life was cheap, death a constant companion. Fear and paranoia were easily sown. As autumn descended on Whitechapel in 1888, a sinister fog enveloped the streets. Whispers of a killer spread, fear rising with each mutilated body found. The Ripper moved like a phantom, striking swiftly and vanishing. Newspapers fueled the panic, their lurid headlines captivating the public. Each night the fog and fear tightened their grip on Whitechapel. As night fell on Whitechapel, dread settled over the cobblestone streets. The fog, a constant companion, took on a sinister quality, weaving through the narrow alleyways. Whispers echoed through tenements and taverns, growing louder with each passing hour. Jack the Ripper announced his presence with gruesome violence, forever changing London. The murders cast a pall over the district, transforming familiar streets into a menacing labyrinth. The victims, all women, were found mutilated, their lives extinguished with chilling brutality. Newspapers printed lurid accounts, fueling the flames of fear that raged through the city. The police, under immense pressure, grappled with a case unlike any before. The Ripper moved like a phantom, striking swiftly and vanishing without a trace. His crimes became a macabre spectacle, a testament to the darkness beneath Victorian society. As the body count rose, so did the fear. Mothers clutched their daughters close, warning them of the dangers in the shadows. Men walked the streets with vigilance, scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. The fog now carried the stench of fear and death, a reminder that nowhere in Whitechapel was safe. The victims of Jack the Ripper, known as the Canonical Five, were Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. Their lives were marked by poverty and their deaths by brutal murders. The murders sent shockwaves through Whitechapel, igniting fear and speculation. The final victim, Mary Jane Kelly, was found murdered in her room on November 9th. Her murder marked the end of the Ripper's reign of terror, but the scars remained. The murders attributed to Jack the Ripper followed a chillingly similar pattern, each act imbued with escalating brutality. The killer's methods were precise and calculated, his gruesome handiwork a macabre signature. The streets of Whitechapel, once bustling, now echoed with unspoken fear. The cobbles were stained with the blood of the innocent, a constant reminder of lurking darkness. The Ripper's victims, all women, were found with their throats slashed, the cuts deep and precise. Their bodies, often mutilated beyond recognition, bore the marks of a depraved mind. The killer seemed to take perverse pleasure in his work, a testament to human depravity. The nature of the murders sent shockwaves through London. The upper classes, once indifferent, were now forced to confront the darkness within their midst. Newspapers filled with lurid accounts fanned the flames of fear and outrage. The police, their resources stretched thin, struggled to keep pace with the Ripper's reign of terror. Every alleyway, every shadow seemed to hold potential danger. The investigation became a desperate race to stop the killer before he claimed another victim. As fear settled over Whitechapel, the police faced the daunting task of unmasking a killer who vanished after each act. The investigation, hampered by 19th century forensics, became a race against time. The streets, patrolled with urgency, offered little in the way of clues. Detectives, fatigued and frustrated, waded through a sea of suspects. The Ripper's true identity remained hidden, his motives shrouded in mystery. Despite challenges, the police were determined to bring the killer to justice. They interviewed countless witnesses, their notebooks filled with conflicting stories. They scoured the streets for evidence, their lanterns casting long shadows. They consulted renowned surgeons, hoping to gain insight into the killer's methods. The investigation was grueling, but detectives pressed on, driven by duty. They knew a killer lurked in Whitechapel, consumed by darkness, and they would not rest until he was brought to justice. As September surrendered to October, tension descended upon London. The fog, a constant companion, now carried whispers of dread. The murders stirred primal fear, seeping into daily life. Casual strolls home were replaced by hurried steps and wary glances. Newspapers with gruesome illustrations became sources of information and morbid fascination. Every household discussed the Ripper's deeds. Theories abounded, adding fuel to the fire of speculation. The police increased their presence in Whitechapel. Uniformed officers patrolled the streets, their faces grim. Plainclothes detectives kept watch in pubs and lodging houses. Despite efforts, the Ripper remained a phantom. He melted back into the shadows, leaving no trace of his identity. The city held its breath, waiting for news of another strike. A new element thrust the case into the national spotlight. In early October, a chilling letter arrived at the Central News Agency. Scrawled in an uneven hand, it was addressed simply, "Dear Boss." The words within sent chills down the spines of those who read them. "I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I love my work and want to start again," the letter read. The writer, signing himself Jack the Ripper, described his plans for his next victim. The letter ignited a media frenzy. Was this the work of the killer or a cruel hoax? The police, initially skeptical, took the letter seriously. The details suggested an intimate knowledge of the crimes. The Dear Boss letter was just the beginning. Hundreds of letters, claiming to be from Jack the Ripper, flooded newspapers and police stations. Some were obvious hoaxes, while others, like the From Hell letter, arrived with a gruesome package half a human kidney. The Ripper's correspondence added complexity to the investigation. The police, already struggling, now grappled with the possibility that the killer was toying with them. Each letter, each gruesome package was a public spectacle. The letters offered a glimpse into the mind of the writer, teetering on madness. They were filled with boasts, threats, and bizarre claims. The police devoted time and resources to investigating each letter. The sheer volume made it nearly impossible to separate genuine from fabricated. The Ripper's taunts sowed doubt and distrust. The city, once a symbol of progress, now seemed held hostage by a phantom. The mystery of Jack the Ripper became a macabre game of cat and mouse. London was caught in the middle. The investigation was like navigating a labyrinth of mirrors. With every discovery, the list of suspects grew longer. The police, inundated with tips and rumors, chased shadows. Every thread of inquiry seemed to unravel. Witnesses offered conflicting accounts, adding confusion. The Ripper's true identity remained concealed. The police pursued myriad theories, each plausible yet unprovable. Could the killer be a butcher or a surgeon? Speculation ran rampant. As weeks turned into months, the investigation made little headway. The Ripper continued to elude capture. The city, once a beacon of progress, was held hostage by fear. The question was no longer, who is Jack the Ripper, but will he ever be caught? Among the countless names, a few emerged from the shadows of suspicion. These men became the focus of the investigation, their lives linked to the Ripper's reign of terror. Montague John Druitt, a barrister, found himself under suspicion. His suicide shortly after the murders ceased fueled speculation. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant, became another person of interest. His erratic behavior made him a convenient suspect, but lack of evidence led to his confinement in an asylum. Even renowned artist Walter Sickert was not immune to suspicion. Some saw in his art a reflection of hidden darkness. Theories linked his movements to the crimes. Despite scrutiny, none of these men could be definitively linked to the crimes. The Ripper vanished into the fog, leaving a legacy of fear and unanswered questions. More than a century later, the identity of Jack the Ripper remains a mystery. The passage of time has amplified fascination with the case. Countless books and documentaries have attempted to shed light on the Ripper's identity. Was the killer a surgeon, a butcher, a member of the royal family? Speculation knows no bounds. Modern forensic techniques have offered glimpses of possibility, but no definitive answer. Each new theory is met with excitement and skepticism. Perhaps the true identity of Jack the Ripper will remain a mystery, or perhaps a breakthrough will occur, unmasking the monster. Until then, the legend of Jack the Ripper continues to captivate and terrify. Jack the Ripper's reign of terror in 1888 casts a long shadow over criminal history. The mystery of his identity and the horror of his crimes continue to captivate and horrify. Whitechapel's cobblestone streets are now a macabre tourist destination. The legend of Jack the Ripper speaks to our primal fear of the unknown. He embodies our deepest anxieties about violence and vulnerability. As long as the mystery remains unsolved, his legend will haunt us. The question of who Jack the Ripper was may never be answered, but his legacy endures. His crimes revolutionized forensic science and highlighted social issues. Jack the Ripper remains a symbol of terror and mystery. His story continues to captivate and challenge us.